Hello, I'm Zaichik, founder of ElasticSteel, method of athletic conditioning. As I was working on level 2 ElasticSteel Kick Master System, a very common question came up and I would like to address it because I know this question is going to keep coming up. And the question was, why do we have the leading routine and why do we have the supporting routine? The exercises in leading routine resemble the kicks and they look something like this. Here you will see a sample of some of the exercises from the leading routine level 2. However, the exercises from the supporting routine do not really resemble the kicking exercises. However, they very much support them, and they look something like this. So most of the time, the leading routine focus on the kicking leg. The supporting routine focus on the supporting leg, focus on the position of the torso. To give you an example of the importance of the supporting routine as well as supporting leg, I'm going to take the frontline kicks right now. Frontline kicks being basically the front kick, inside and outside crescent kick, and an X kick. When you spar, usually you step a little bit closer to adjust the distance if you want to come closer to your opponent, or you take a smaller step forward, or you actually stay back if you want to lengthen the distance between you and your opponent. And that works great when you practice it as shadow boxing or in front of a mirror or you hit a target. But if you ever try to hit a live opponent, you're going to know that your live opponent usually does not stay in one place. A good one will move in every which way, but most of the time people move forward and back. Usually more back than forward when you attempt a technique on them. The control, whether or not you kick higher or lower, depends on the kicking leg and on the supporting leg. However, the distance control forward and back depends primarily on your supporting leg. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. Here I have the front kick extended. If I want that kick to go a little bit more, I will lean back. As I lean back, the kick actually travels more away from my body. Why? Because of the counterbalance. Now, for me to be able to throw a longer kick, I need strength, flexibility, awareness, and balance. And all of that primarily in my supporting hip. In other words, once this hip begins to travel into the target, I need the flexibility of the hip flexors adductors here. At the same time, I need the strength because they've been stretched. They need to be strong in that range. And this is just for the supporting hip. Usually the supporting exercise addresses the supporting hip, they also address the torso. What I often came up against is when people would say, well, my style, we don't do it this way. Your style can do it any way they want when it's all theoretical, but when it's practical, most people naturally will try to adjust the distance by leaning the hips forward. Once, of course, the hips go forward, you're going to fall forward unless you countercompensate, so your body goes back. Okay? So you have that front kick, you try to lean forward, your body goes back. You need the strength, flexibility, balance in this hip for that. Now, if that is not developed and all you have been working on is that kick, as if you never try to adjust the distance and that's all you do is that front kick. I'm just doing snap front kick right now. Come the real fight situation, you're either not gonna commit, and what might seem like it's only slight distance, only slightly more reach makes a difference whether or not you penetrate a target or you just barely touch a target. Whether or not you don't touch a target at all, or you make contact and you get points, for instance, in point fighting, or you actually go to the target and you hurt somebody in actual fighting. Now, what happens if someone doesn't have that developed? If someone doesn't have that supporting hip, and as a matter of fact, the whole supporting structure developed, they will either not follow their opponent. If their opponent maybe slightly shift back or slightly step back, they may not follow him, so that attack would be useless. That's point one. Point two, that person might commit anyway and then just fall because there's not going to be any adjustments, not going to be any awareness. Or that person might follow anyway, not fall, sacrifice their hip and get injured just by trying to reach that target. So having said that, those are the advantages of training your supporting structures for the kick. Right now we talked about frontline kick, but this applies to any kick. I'm Zaichik, thank you for watching.